Hello.
Hello. So, welcome to Microworld at Home. We're on episode 23, incredibly. And this week's episode is Millersville and Swarm Part 2. We did a little warm-up programme last week, Swarm Part 1, which we didn't promote, but here we are back properly with episode 23. The Millersville refers to Millersville University. This week we're showcasing work that we've made in collaboration with 4 students at Millersville University in Pennsylvania. This was organised by Heidi Leitzker and Christine Filipponi, both lecturers or professors at the university. So we have sound provided by Gillian E. Gurney. Tim's put an extra N on her at the end of her name. And I'll ask you, Tim, to explain a little bit about what you've done with her pieces.
Sure. I thought it was a strange name.
We've also got sound from our resident sound artist, Julia Sharman, who's going to be doing it live from Sheffield. And in the first piece that we're showing, we've got works, contributions, video contributions from James Riley, Rachel Canningiani and Ian Mikey, all at Millersville University. So thanks very much for joining with us and creating this remarkable piece of work, which we'll be showcasing in a minute. Anything else to say before we actually kick off with the Medusa and the Snail?
Let's do the first piece, which is about 20 minutes long, we reckon.
Do you want to say anything about what you've done with Gillian's sounds first?
I'll do that afterwards.
Okay,
yeah.
Fine. So I've just got to load it up. So this is our Medusa and Snail programme, which you've seen before if you've watched the programme. So this is, it's using different video pieces and running them through our sampler, visual sampler.
That was it.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
There was some great solarized colour effects through that. I mean, I was... so that was based on a piece by Gillian Gurney, and she sent us a short, say 3-minute-ish piece of her
Sound.
singing
Yeah.
with ukulele, making sound effects, and then put it through a Granular Synthesis program, which kind of chops it up into thousands of bits and then rebuilds it. So in effect, I'm kind of playing the kind of chopping upness of that piece. I mean, it's going through the whole piece and extending it because it's chopping it up and putting all the bits back together in a much longer version.
I mean, it's worth saying, so what we'd said to these students was that we'd like them to provide us with short sequences of sound or short sequences of visuals, and that we would introduce them into these programs that effectively stretch them, layer them, put them over the top of each other with the visuals. You know, we can do
Create a big
as
mashup
well.
was the idea. So a few
Yeah.
students send stuff and we put them into our programs. So we did a live Zoom stream with them a few days ago, where we showed them what we had and talked to them a bit about it, and they were quite interested in the way that they were being manipulated and changed. And then we are recreating some of the things that we did with them today live, streamed onto to YouTube.
Yeah, I've just set up a little feedback behind you, Tim.
Do you want me to talk any more in detail about granular synthesis? I mean, I was quite interested at the end of that piece. It refused to stop, basically. I'm going to just start it again.
Sounds like us. And by the way, we aren't actually, normally I check on YouTube that the whole thing's running, but to preserve our signal I'm not. So if it drops out, Julia, give me a call and let us know we're not sending our...
What I'm intrigued is why is it getting through without me changing this level? I thought that was the master level, but apparently not.
It's always about learning.
Well, I can use this one instead. I mean, there's so many different audio levels in the setup we have. So I'll play this quietly in the background and kind of try to explain what's happening. So this granular synthesis program is currently paused at one particular point in per piece, and it chops out a tiny little section, and I can increase the length of the section and I can advance it forward. So this is now in a loop, and I can make it longer. I mean, or slower, it repeats more occasionally, less occasionally, or fast. It's a tiny, tiny little sections that are so small, when you put them together, it becomes a completely different type of musical effect. So there's that interval. I mean, I've added in a rhythm onto this, which you don't usually have in granular synthesis, or I don't know, I'm not an expert on it, but this is my own kind of home-baked version of granular synthesis using processing in an audio library called Beads. So this has a rhythm now, and I can change the rhythm. So it's still playing the same tiny little section, but at a rhythm. And then you can choose how far either way you are to where that point is in her piece. So you've got to pick a tiny little sample, but not from the point you're at, it could be from a random point around that. So I can spread that wider, and now it's picking little sections from around that single piece in the music. And eventually, if it's so wide, it can include everything possible within the piece.
What's really interesting for me is the connection with early, well, I'm thinking of people like Meredith Monk, people who experimented with their voice, capturing that, like jumping backwards and forwards, like a playhead jumping backwards and forwards.
Were they using granular synthesis, or were they performing it? They were learning to perform like that?
Performing it. Classical pianist who experimented with the voice. She was interested in different I don't have the language for
Serialism,
it. Like,
minimalism,
yeah, but
minimalist
also
techniques.
like Chinese. So you've got
Little
the 12,
tiny loops repeating.
but also different. It's not harmonics. What is it when you're playing it? Like we have the standard, the traditional 12.
Modes.
Yeah. So for example, in Japanese music, she would be interested in the different
Major, minor, Lydia Dorian, all that stuff.
exactly.
Yeah.
But also this really staccato type of performance that sounds like it's jumping backwards and forwards, and that's I really like the connection. I mean, I love listening to pieces like that, and so the fact that you have transformed.
And they were mimicking. They were responding
like
to computer effect, early computer synthesis,
I know.
and yeah, they were, and to the industrialization of life, machines, and humans. So humans are becoming more mechanized, so they become repeating little
me
patterns.
of Therese then, yeah? So when we saw a piece, was it Therese? When we saw...
Well, all the minimalists, Wright and Adams and all these
but
people.
that mechanisation of...
Andrisson's another one.
Or
That
turning...
piece, everything, it sounds like a huge factory of humans, and it was really painful to play it. I mean, lots of it was percussion, but imagine you have to just play one loop about 5,000 times, and then you get a nod from someone, then you have to play a different loop another 5,000 times. It's like, oh my lord.
I have seen a few performances, and
Yeah.
I have always considered myself to have a poor sense of rhythm, so the idea of maintaining it, I could sort of...
European non-starter.
I could do that. Just about.
Okay, so just to go back to this, so the other thing you can change is the length of the granular synthesis. So these are short, little tiny short sequences. You can have longer. So effectively, you're chopping the human voice up into pieces, and you can play it as an instrument. And if I take it off pause, it moves through the piece and creates an ever-changing pattern, which comes from the original piece, but bears no relationship to it. So granular synthesis is a great and not that difficult to get your head around. And there are lots of pieces of software which can do it for you. It's a good piece of. It's a good way of dealing with music, creating new music.
So, can you just get the names up again of the people that participated in that first one? So, thanks again to James Riley, Rachel Canigiani, Ian Mikey, and for your visuals that we put into the Medusa and the Snail programme, also mixed with a little bit of footage of beetles and jellyfish, and then to Gillian Gurney for her sound. And we're now going to Tim's now going to play another programme using her sound. What sound have you got this time?
This time she played the violin, and again sent us a small couple of 2 or 3 minutes sequence of her playing various kind of patterns, repeating.
Right, and I'm going to play it with a piece that I've just put together. So we're interested in swarms, and so Julia, outside her window, has what we think might be an aspen tree, but whatever. I've asked her to take footage of it, and she's really nicely, she filmed it at different times of day, and I've put it together again, so it's a video exported into JPEG sequences and then mashed up in this Medusa and Snail program. So this is called Aspen.
And are we just going to watch that on its own as it
We
as
can
it is?
take it off, you can play with it. I'm just going to kill your video.
The audio I think is about 7 minutes,
Can you,
something like that.
if you wouldn't mind taking that off. And I'm just going to start playing it.
Okay.
And off it goes.
Okay, that's the end of that one.
Wow, I'm in red. Yeah, so you might say aspen leaves?
I can't see
Small?
anything, Nicola.
Oh, it's there.
Whack up the contrast or something.
I'll just take it.
Pause
It's because it
Can
goes
you pause
to
the film?
dark. No, I haven't put it. The slowest speed is 1, so it does, and I actually have it going quite fast. It says. Yeah, it's at different times of day. So actually, there is a phase when it's very dark, and at this moment, I've got the. Here we are. I've got the transparency on it as well. Yeah, what it is I was talking to Julia one day on video phone, and I saw this what looked like a cloud of activity through her window, and we've been working on swarms, and I was really interested to see these leaves. It was capturing this idea of individual things doing their own thing, but collectively within a single organisation or organism. So although obviously a tree doesn't swarm or the leaves don't swarm, you could consider the branches as like showing this connectedness between things. What do you think of that? So I'm interested in
That's
swarms.
interesting.
Of,
I mean, I tried to do an online course on biological imaging a while ago, and one of the parts of that was taking pictures or videos of trees, say, and recognising where the leaves are, because the leaves are a particular shape. So you pointed at something.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you look at this black and white image on the right-hand side, which is it's black and white zoomed in, and then there's a kind of graph on it. I mean, it just randomly came out like this, but each of those, and there's a load of moths, so I'm trying to talk. Each of those black blobs is a leaf, presumably, so then they would set the computer program off doing that and get the position of every leaf.
Yeah.
And from that, yeah, you could make inferences about how they are connected through the bark and how the tree is growing and stuff like that.
Well, it was just an idea, but
It's not what I expected at all. I thought I was going to get a big close-up of an aspen leaf, which I looked up,
no,
and it's
that
very
can happen at some point. But you can see this is, well, these are, and do you know what? It may not even be an aspen tree. I mean, it's
that's a good start. But that's good. I like that one there, Nicola. That looks quite scientific, the black and white one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's flickering, but yeah, it's trying to make
However,
sense.
what I'm
of that
liking
one.
about this is this solarization effect in this. So it goes dark. That's the moon over there in the corner, and this is the sun. So it's an experiment, and not all experiments, result in perfection. But that's you've got your camera zoomed in on an element. Yeah. So I'm going to try and.
It's not even zoomed in. I think it's just not very wide. It hasn't got very wide throw, that camera.
Oh, okay.
Number 3.
So this is zoomed.
Or have you given me? You've swapped to me for.
No,
a
I've
camera.
got. So if you can you get wall 1 on behind you? I just make that highly contrasty, reduce the brightness.
We watched a documentary starring Arthur Miller from Dad's Army as Louis Pasteur a while ago, and it was about the early microbiologists and how they were chasing.
Arthur Lowe.
What did I say?
Arthur Miller. I was confused.
No, not Arthur Miller. It wasn't written by Arthur Miller either. Nor Arthur Lowe. So he was quite a grumpy Louis Pasteur, which was good. And they were discovering penicillin and looking at how bacteria spreads disease. One of the scientists in it was a German scientist called, I don't know how to say this, Koch, K-O-C-H.
Yeah, Koch.
But he took some very early, I think amongst the first photographs of bacteria, and they're in black and white obviously, they have these little kind of swarming patterns that, these tiny bacteria make, which got no, very little in the way of a brain or any kind of decision-making capacity, but they form these kind of swarms of really intricate shapes. Yeah.
As described Is it bags of liquid or water with a little bit of DNA?
Yeah. I wanted to, they were so beautiful, I was thinking of trying to maybe basing a show around it at some point, but yeah, maybe I will introduce, one of the reasons we're talking about swarms a lot is because, we're talking about this now, Nicola?
Yeah.
Next month with the Margate School, we're delivering a series of workshops on creative coding, and the subject we've chosen is swarms and swarm art and swarm behaviour. So we'll be teaching 10 or so people how to code in processing and P5.js and maybe P5 Live as well, but to create simple kind of swarm effects, which we'll be demoing today. And in the next few shows, no doubt we'll be, as we're investigating more swarm techniques, we'll be adding more of those into Microworld at Home and discussing them. And we'll be, in the second half of the show today, we will be looking at some simple swarm in more detail. So I didn't talk about the audio on that one. Do you want me to?
Yeah, so we've got 23 minutes before Julia will be.
Okay, so the audio on that one was a violin piece, which again was chopped up, but the chops were chosen by a series of particles which were going in a tidal backwards and forwards motion, which we sometimes show in Microworld at Home, but currently it doesn't work because I wrote some other code which killed the tide code, but I will fix it back in at some point. I was thinking of a tide actually should be a swarm. The way I'd done it was lots of little balls were pushing others. Big balls were pushing smaller balls. The big balls are invisible, and the smaller balls go up and down the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But actually I'm thinking now I'll generalise it and turn it into a swarm as well. So there'll be a kind of push up and then it'll fade and then it'll pull back down. So I'm going to merge the two sets of code. So yeah, these particles, tidal swarm particles, were grabbing little sections of the violin piece and just layering them on top. So from just one violin becomes a whole host of violins, or what do you call it? Section of violins in an orchestra. Cacophony. Yeah, it was a bit of a cacophony, but we like that sort of sound. So that was how that was done.
I said, do we?
Yes, I like lots of atonal noise all playing at once on top of itself.
Great. So what would you like to put up now then? I can remove the possible aspen.
I was thinking actually that piece was using Sonic Pi as a separate piece of software to processing, so it's sending a signal from one program to another via OSC, Open Sound Control, whatever it's called. But given that the other program, this Granular Synthesis one with beads, was just all done within processing with an internal library, and it sounds quite good, doesn't it? Yeah. Processing sound on its own can get really bit of a mess sometimes. So maybe I don't need to use Sonic Pi for that type of thing either. Could have just sent a little chopped bits to...
Well, give it a go.
Sonic Pi is a really nice program, and it's free, and it's very small, so it can run on Raspberry Pis and things like that, if that's what you want it to do. And its kind of focus is using synths and samples and mixing and adding effects, reverbs and things like this on them. So it's great at that. It hasn't got a visual output at all. But I'm wondering if you're running a piece in an exhibition space, or somebody else is running one of your pieces, you don't really want to be asking them to run two different programs and make sure they're talking to each other. Mm-hmm. So it'd be good if you could contain it all within one. It's just a thought. I'm endlessly battling. I love processing, but sound has been a battle since the beginning. Because if you just give it half a chance, it just makes smears a horrible sound all over the place, and cut, chop, chop. You get these clicks and pops. Samples aren't smooth. So, ongoing battle basically, that one.
Okay, so I need to. I'm just going to set my.
So this workshop, yeah, you can sign up for this Swarm Art Creative Coding workshop on the Margate School's website, which is
Oh dear. Sorry.
themargateschool.com. It's 5 weeks, 2 hours in the evenings. I think is it Thursday evenings, Nicola, or is it Tuesday evenings? Tuesday evenings. Mid-November to mid-December. We're looking for about 10, 12 maybe participants, and then bring in your laptop. We'll teach you how to code, which is a great skill anyway, and then we'll also get you to create some crazy swarm art, and then we'll try and bring all these swarms into a single space. What happens when one swarm crashes into another swarm? Might be interesting. So you can book this course. It's not free. I think is this the first ever. We usually do free workshops, but in this case, it's a new setup with a new organisation, and
so it's £100 for 10 hours. Basically.
Because of COVID, we have to put extra staff on to check this and that and so forth. So yeah, it's £100 for 5 weeks, which is pretty good.
Yeah. Right, so I need to put something on that wall, so I'm just going to put it on 1.3. So what are you going to run while I set this up?
Well, I could demo a slime mould. Should I demo that program?
Sure.
Okay. Slime mould is one of these very brainy creatures, isn't it, Nicola? What can a slime mould do?
It can work out the underground system for New York.
Okay, is that correct? It's running the New York's underground.
That's right.
I don't think that's right. It can solve mazes, and if you put bits of sugar on the New York subway stations,
On the map of, yeah?
yeah, in a coordinate system,
yeah.
and you put bigger bits of sugar at bigger stations, like Grand Central, is that the one I suppose? It must be a big one.
Yeah.
So you put these big lumps of sugar down, and then you let the slime mould at it. The slime mould spreads all over the place, trying to get the sugar, but it ends up leaving bigger trails where there's more sugar and lesser sugar, and kind of efficient trails, not kind of direct lines to places. It ends up by joining all these sugar stations in a surprisingly similar formation to the New York subway, or any Tokyo subway, or wherever it was. It was a classic art science experiment. So yeah, it can, and the travelling salesman problems relate to this, and it can help. It could help designers to create a more efficient network, connected network, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all with the slime mould, which hasn't got a brain.
No brain. It's a superorganism. It lives individually and forms a grex when in times of need.
Yes, so we're trying to, but it's really hard to simulate. Ants are easy, termites quite easy, but slime mould very difficult.
So how are you going to show this? You're going to project it, or
I'm
you're
going to
use
dongle it onto that one.
So if this works, hooray!
Well, we haven't done one of these before, but
there you go.
Processing program. So I'm just going to present it and talk about it. So I can't remember how many it is. Maybe looks about 500. So the little white dot. This isn't slime mould, but I'm trying to move this towards slime mould. This is really a mix of ants and swarms. Swarms we talked about last week in part 1, like swarms of birds flying through the sky, which use ideas of attraction, repulsion and orientation. You can use those ideas to simulate the patterns made by birds murmurating, is that the word?
Mm-hmm.
Starlings or fish. So that's one part in this program. But then also a different type of swarm are ants. Ants they swarm in a different way, ants. And swarming, I suppose, is loosely described as a large collection of individuals who are passing little bits of information between themselves or between themselves and the environment, and based on that information they change their behaviour and the resulting emergent behaviour, swarm behaviour, can get certain types of jobs done. So ants use pheromone trails in their swarms. Pheromone trails are chemicals that they drop on the ground when they've found some food. So they grab the food, rush back to their nest, leaving this trail. The trail effectively says to other ants, there's something good at the end of this trail, some food, follow this trail. So other ants join onto this trail, and as more and more ants join on the trail, they get more and more food, leave more and more pheromone, and they start creating these ant superhighways. You can see where on the right hand of the screen, there's hundreds of ants just bombing around along that path. Now, this program's got various sliders. I'll turn randomness off. If I turn randomness off, even more ants get stuck into these various patterns. There's a little looping one here in the middle I'm circling the mouse around. So I'll put random back on. So they are following pheromone trails, but they are also random to an extent. So that's the ants which are doing their pheromone trail swarm, and then on top of that I've added a flock type swarm which I can turn up, and if I turn up, this one tries to keep the ants away from each other, and now he's starting to get some effects. This is a little bit like slime mold, Nicola, doesn't it? But it's not as controlled as slime mold, but I'll kill that off again. So now there is no swarm going on, and the ants will bit by bit just form into their preferred superhighway paths. So they're all the clump, the groups.
Have you speeded this up, yeah? Or is it quite fast?
They're going very fast, and I've got one here called mold speed. I can't remember what that does. Oh yeah, that slows them down. Yeah, but that's how far they look ahead actually. They sniff ahead to find the pheromone. So they're like that, but then if I push this one up, you start getting these spreading effects, which look a little bit like parts of what the slime mold do. So, and then that's too much. I don't know, let's fade some of that. And you got the pheromones that the ants put down can fade, so you get these nice ghostly effects.
It does have a quality of like particles or smoke, something in liquid. You know, there's obviously
fluids. Yeah. I mean, it's like rivers. Yeah, these are like rivers. Rivers find the paths of least resistance, but there is some randomness to it, and there are thousands and thousands of particles. It's not a swarm; it's a flow, I suppose, but creates similar patterns. And that is what has interests so many people. Why is it that ant trails, rivers are the same shapes, sort of fractally similar shapes? They're completely different systems. Yeah. So that looking at systems is definitely part of
That's
what
why you have to look at forces outside the body, isn't it? You know, can't just say it's the way that this creature is built or the molecule works. It's also what is the environment, what is the weather, what is the material it's covering.
Yes, because ants, if you put ants without an environment, they might just go in a straight line, I suppose.
If they're on, what if they were in space?
Floating around in space.
Ants in space.
Can I simulate that? What have we got?
No, what have you got? An anti-gravity or something? No gravity.
So if I turn everything off. Anyway. So yeah, I'm developing this, and we're going to try and work out how to teach these. These are ants going in straight lines. I don't care. Yeah. And I'm doing the sliders, but you could get the sliders to change in response to someone in a gallery space or something like that. We've done that before.
Yeah.
We did a show once with Sean Clark in Leicester. Phoenix, was it? In the Phoenix?
Mm-hmm. In the White Cube.
And we had some ant swarms on couple of the walls, which were responding to the way that people moved in the space. And I think it's the first time we'd done it, and the show was called Symbiosis. It was about how artworks affect other artworks. So we were hoping for some surprises and some emergent behaviour. So we came back in went to the beginning, had a nice quiet view, came back in about a month later, and there were all these dots on the wall. We were jumping for joy. We're going, wow, something has emerged, which we didn't know. And as artists and programmers, that's like one of the biggest joy when something appears that you didn't expect, so all these dots had appeared on the wall. So we were looking at it, trying to figure out how it had happened. And then the penny dropped, and we realised it was just a bunch of dead pixels off the projectors. These projectors now don't have dead pixels, but in the early ones, the LCD ones, sometimes the little tiny mirror that sends the light around the picture just dies, and you get this white spot or black spot fixed on the screen, or maybe slightly flickering. And it turned out the cleaners are just not bothered turning the piece off ever.
Why should the cleaners turn it off, for God's sake?
Well, exactly, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The projectors had just been left on.
They left on solidly for a month. No wonder it's the dead pixels. So that was a bit disappointing. Well, that was our first breakthrough in emergent art.
Well, emergent dead pixels.
In fact, I've got those projectors, so I'm going to give them to Matt for his Planet Technology space. He could do something with them.
So shortly we're going to have some sound live from Julia called The Many, and inspired by swarms. I've got a few beetles scuttling around the room. But in fact what Tim and I are going to do when we start the sound stream is to work with some of the swarming code that Tim's introduced into our Sea People program, which is the program that's running on all of the walls. So yeah, this is my video patterns program, which allows me to play videos and add, and I'll quickly add, let's see, I can't remember what I've got in here. Oh, my favourite one, gliding rods. It's got nothing to do with swarms.
Well, no, it's a collection of objects that have rules which they're individually following, they just aren't affecting each other.
Yeah.
But they could be.
So this is my videos patterns program, which allows me to load movie clips, patterns, and video. But I'll just have that playing for a minute. So yeah, Tim, we're gonna.
I mean, talking about patterns, one thing that I've not looked at all with the swarm is how it looks, how it gets rendered. All I'm doing is just placing a load of dots around the screen and making them respond to each other. I'll pass it over to you, Nicola, to turn those boring dots into something visually more interesting.
And certainly in the workshop program, that's exactly what participants can do as well. So they can get the swarm doing what they want it to do. Could be inspired by a shoal of fish in a more sort of tornado type shape. But what is the actual object that's being moved around? So let's get our info up so that we can. I want you to just remind me of the swarming control that we've got in our programs.
Yeah, so
let me just put it on wall one.
I've put in the three classic steering forces, I think they're called, which are separation, alignment and cohesion. And these are the three that Craig Reynolds, a computer scientist in 1986, came up with to simulate a flock of birds, which he called boids. So I've put those three forces into this program, and you can change the way the dots work together. Separation, keep away from your neighbours. Alignment, go in the same direction as your neighbours. And cohesion, try to stay with as many of your neighbours as possible. So using those three forces, you can simulate some interesting patterns. So do you want to start doing that, Nicola? Or are you waiting on Julia?
So can you, first of all, take the attraction, repulsion, orientation text off? What number is it for that? I couldn't...
3.
Fine.
There are lots of other ways of creating swarm-like effects. I mean, I'll look at one later on. And I'm trying to find super simple ones. We don't know what level people are going to be at in these workshops. We've heard a couple of people are quite skillful. Oh look, you just sent a subtitle across there.
Did I? I pressed the wrong button. No, what
3.
am I pressing? 3. I might
And then press it again to get rid of it.
Oh, I see. Okay, fine.
So we'll figure it out in the first week and then adjust to the skill level of the people. But
so get your dots up on the other walls, and do you want me to have these scuttling beetles behind it, or do you want to just work with the dots?
I'm fine. I'm happy to put the dots on top of it. So do you want me to?
We're going to work it out.
Okay, I'm going to go for blue.
Okay, so I might go for. I think I'm happy with. Okay, maybe I'll have red. What size are you at?
Medium-ish.
So I might make.
Should I just play some sound and you want to play around while we're waiting for Julia?
Yeah, I'll. Oh, Julia's playing now. So, okay. So I'm just going to turn Julia up on this, and then you can turn it up because it's literally 3 minutes. But I think
It's just a short one from Julia.
No, it's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But I realise it's
Okay.
not quite 3 o'clock,
Well, it's
so
not exactly
I'm
on
just
time.
going to get it coming
Julia's
through.
playing
and
in
then you turn
Sheffield,
it up.
so.
I'm interested, on the banana, which slider are we for the voice?
Well, I thought it was the voice is not. The voice is coming through separately directly into OBS, but the Julia should be this one,
Okay.
and I should be that one. But actually,
So I've got Julia coming up. So are you controlling that at all? Because I can hear it. I think banana's not working.
Banana's sort of packed in for the day. Banana's a kind of sound mixer, but it is going through, and I've got a gain on it if we need to make it louder. It looks a bit quiet, Julia's in.
Okay.
What type of beetles are these, Nicola? Apart from that they're swarming. What?
Can we just concentrate on the sound level first?
Sure.
So.
It's
Okay, then
playing
Julia,
from
if
your
you
laptop.
turn it up
It's
a little
playing.
bit.
Your earphone is not in properly. It's coming in the room. Thank you.
Okay, so it's not coming through then.
Are you muted in OBS? And you're sending to monitor out in OBS?
I've got the signal. So you're turning up the right one. I've definitely got the signal playing.
That's
plugged in.
That's really quiet, Nicola. That's not a signal. That.
Don't worry about that. Where is it on that? Can you try the other dials?
There's something there, right? How did you change?
I didn't do anything. You did.
Okay, I think she just whacked her level up. Look, see how it looks.
Turn the level up, and you won't play. We have The Many by Julia.
How long is this? 20 minutes, yeah? Okay.
So The Many by Julia Showerman in Sheffield.
Thank you very much, Julia.
That's wonderful. Lovely and scuttling and shuffling, and we were trying to respond to it, and I think we've ended up with something quite interesting. We're trying to pair it back to that massive activity. What do you think, Tim? How do you feel about this type of imagery?
I think it is amazing, but I think I've lost it a bit on this middle screen here. I'm just going to bring the trails back a bit.
I'll put it onto a fisheye. So thanks, Julia. So Julia is performing live in Sheffield. Now, there was a little bit of a signal issue there, so if the sound cut out a little bit, we noticed that we've got an indicator on OBS that tells us how the signal strength is. And
we went from a green light to a red light, Nicola.
Oh.
But for a bit, but yeah. I think it might hold together because it was during the music piece, and the music piece was,
the scuttles were fighting their way through the wavelength, so anyway they got here, but it sounded great, and it was, it's always really, it's wonderful when you're manipulating dials and knobs and God knows what else to create something, to have something to respond to is fantastic, isn't it? I mean, it's improvisation, isn't it?
And to play with the feedback effects, because each wall is looking at another wall here. So if you rearrange the cameras, which are in the middle, you can dramatically change the whole room just by changing one of the backgrounds, which feeds into the next one, and so forth.
And if I do that,
and just trying to get it on the edge of that sort of feedback phase, where it's not too bright, dark, but it's just sort of in between, just sort of like wavering slightly. It is kind of quite wonderful. And I do sort of feel almost like I am a fish in the ocean, Nicola, looking at a swarm of back ends of loads of little fish.
This reminds me of eels, a swarm of eels.
Yes.
Or snakes or something like that. And the background footage is of beetles, but it's with the way that the dots are moving. I've got maggots on my wall as well.
I mean, these are just little random squiggles and lines. It's like drawing, isn't it? Animation, basically. It's kind of, we've pared it down to black and white. It's very, very effective.
Yeah. This looks lovely on wall. I'm just going to bring wall 3 up. So it reminds me of photograms as well. Just exposing.
Yes, with a fading out effect. I mean, there's a trail on the dots. If you don't have a fade out effect, it just fills up the whole screen, and then you can't see anything. So. I mean, there's two different scales here. There's the actual dots on the piece, which are the small ones, the more wigglier ones, and then there's the white squishing ones, are the ones from your wall, Nicholas. So Nicholas, we control a wall each here, and in the middle wall we have 2 projectors on that, which we also control. So, but that is very.
Zoom on that.
I mean, just watching swarms, it's like watching a fire, isn't it? It's that flickering effect. It's just or watching. We don't really get huge starling murmurations here. I don't really like that word, do you?
It doesn't capture what it looks
They're not
like.
really. Are they murmuring to each other? They make a noise, do they?
You've got some wonderful maggoty shapes coming over your body.
Oh yeah, Nicola went for extra maggots, which are those yellow things eating away at the trails. So the maggots we haven't shown them for a few weeks, they love being with the swarms because there's always something else to eat.
So what else is in the box? Do you want to show me some
We're going to
fire?
talk a bit about fire, but I was going to do a little demo for us to start figuring out how complicated these workshops are going to be. So should we do that? It's yet another swarm.
Okay.
This one
do you want
is
to go
midges.
onto your...
No, wait until I've run the programme first.
Okay. And I'm just going to shut this one down. So thanks, Julia. I'm looking forward to hearing more sounds.
The question is, where did I put the midges? Could be in here. Yes, swarm simple. So I was thinking, to do these swarms, things have to know where other things are relative to them, and that involves angles and distances which is trigonometry, which is maths, which
is
people,
scary.
broadly speaking, hate.
Lots of people say I like numbers.
You always say, oh, now I know what maths is useful for. It's for controlling swarms. So, the aim is to try and get rid of as much of the maths as possible. So, here we have...
Do you want me to...
Yeah, you can dongle me. So here we have a collection of dots which are just randomly fluttering around. And I have one single slider which is called separation. And if you watch Nicola, are you going to feed it into something?
It's alright, I was just fiddling, sorry.
Yeah. So all I've got is one slider which goes from +1 to -1. So if I increase it and you watch it, you'll see.
Oh, that does look like a murmuration. Wow,
Or
that's
does
like
it?
a load of flies.
Exactly. Well, I've called it midges.
Ah, okay.
So you can control how much the midges want to be near
If
each other, I
only.
suppose. Just take it back out.
Wow.
So it does look a bit like a load of old midges, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It's not a murmuration because murmurations are complex patterns, aren't they?
They're moving forward
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
time and swerving and
Yeah.
curving and stuff like this.
No, midges are just sort of. Why do midges congregate like that? Do they all helping each other get a big chunk out of
Midges, this is on Wikipedia. In the northwest of Scotland and Northern Wales, and Highland midge is usually very prevalent from late spring to late summer. Female Highland midges are well known for gathering in clouds and biting humans.
someone? Ooh.
Though the majority of the blood they obtain comes from cattle, sheep and deer. The bite of midges is felt as a sharp prick. It is often followed by irritation that may disappear in a few hours or last for a few days.
If
Yeah,
you're
it is
allergic to it, like me.
Yes. So, the code for the midges. Right, how am I going to do this? I'm going to shrink this one down, put this on the left, flatten that one, so we can see the
We'll work it out at
midges.
some point.
So each midge has got an X and a Y position. We know what that is, Nicola. We know that people know what that is.
Well, then remember coordinates. They might not remember that X
6-year-old
goes across.
kids know what X, Y coordinates
Yeah,
are.
but a lot of people won't remember that X goes across and Y goes down.
Well, yeah. They go at right angles to each other.
In fact, Y goes down in programming, doesn't it? Because it goes up in a graph.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay.
So basically, each midge, all it has is an X and a Y. This is a
That's
class,
amazing.
which is a way of.
And
Do you think we can
it's
teach
2D.
classes to people? We've never done that either. Oh, we did it with the
Yeah,
chef
we
and
have.
sixth formers.
Have confidence, Tim. I am sure. If you get the metaphor right, you can teach anything.
A class is a great structure for us to use because essentially it's saying this is one creature,
It's like having a box.
and
all
inside
your
this is how I
bits in
move,
it.
this is how I draw,
Yeah.
this is all the other things I can do. Well, I've got some variables which
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
So the midge only has an X and Y variable, alright? Every loop through the program, this is all the midge does, is it picks one other midge randomly, could be any of them, there's 1,000. Picks one other midge and it moves either towards that or away from that, depending on that slider.
Interesting.
And to do that, it uses these two lines of codes.
But does it have it literally sort of maps that motion, or has it got a random on it as well?
It's also got a random on it. Well spotted, Nicola. Yes, because I can knock out these two instructions, and yes, I've given it a random. So these midges are just random,
Yeah.
but they're not going to move to each other. They're not being affected by this slider. But if I put these two lines, so these are basically the other two lines that control this swarm. That's it. So this is as simple as I could think to get
It's nice.
what looks like.
I think that's great.
So I think we could do this in week 1.
And what is it? Can you show me the graphic? Can you?
It's just an ellipse. It's literally
Is
a
it
dot.
really? Do you know what? It moves so fast. It looks like it's got
Yeah.
like a double ellipse.
Well, I guess that's to do with processing.
You haven't got a frame rate on it. You've just got it.
No, I've just said go as fast as you can. So
I think
it's probably going
frames.
a little bit too fast. Processing is the world's fastest ever language.
But it's fast enough. And conventional animation used to be, I don't know if it still is, 12 frames a second.
Yeah, but they have video games 60 frames a
Yeah,
second,
but this
virtual
is-
reality 120 frames a second, Nicola.
Oh my god.
Processing won't get anywhere near that. You'll just give everyone a headache if you stick that into
No,
it.
but I mean we're often clamping it anyway.
So I reckon we could teach people this. So this line here of code is saying the exposition is the exposition plus a little bit, and the little bit is one of the other midges position minus our position times a fraction of that, just a little bit in that direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the same with the y coordinate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Y splits it into coordinates. That's kind of the simplest way you can do it. It's called easing. So you reckon we could teach people that week one?
Isn't easing like Zeno's paradox sort of thing? It's just
Yes.
slowly slows down.
Go halfway towards it,
So
then
I
go
mean,
halfway
when
again,
I first
halfway
learned
again.
to code, that was one of the early things of a general coming closer to something. And
What's nice about it is it kind of smooths and slows as it gets there, because it doesn't. It's got a kind of it's got an animation feel. It's like one of those Disney things, don't just
Doesn't
go
quite
somewhere.
get there. Yeah.
Just go there and just sort of softly land on it. So,
Yeah. It's the
but
right.
then from here onwards, it gets more and more complicated. So we'll just have to introduce it bit by bit, level by
Sure.
level.
Sure.
And if necessary, people can just use the effects because I can give them the effects in the bits of code.
And I mean, they can do it. So
They
processing
can construct
does,
the visuals.
and processing does 3D. And this we could do a sort of fake one. Not worry about the Z coordinate, but they could make 3D objects if they wanted to, and have them working within a swarm.
Yes, yeah. That's why I'm leaving a bit more to your side. They can do all sorts of things because these are just.
And I mean, they could actually make it go on the Z coordinate as well. That might be quite interesting, but
Yeah,
it's
you
just
can
about
use a third coordinate in processing. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
In fact, you're better than I am. You have to use lighting, don't you, to get a perspective.
Yeah, but
Perspective
beyond
effect.
worrying about that, you can just use the default settings. It just might be quite nice that things get bigger and smaller as well.
And then you can, rather than actually pushing that slider yourself, you can make that respond to the
Be interactive.
light level in the room or something like that, or movement in front of the webcam. So we may do stuff like that. We're interactive artists. We haven't actually sold the courses doing that, but I think we'll be asking people what they're interested in doing and responding to that.
And because it's a small group of people, we can actually be flexible to a
And
degree.
then we'll do a sharing at the Margate School, but we can also put the results into a Microworld at home in a closed interactive environment like this as an extra output as well. So
Very good.
hopefully we get enough people signed up for it. I think we're part way there already, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident. It starts on the 17th of November, so there's plenty of time. We're not even in November yet.
Right, so before we finish then, we've been working, or you've been working on a fire simulator, so we're
Yes.
going to be part of a spare tire event next week. It's going to be next Wednesday evening. So Spare Tire are doing an event called Signal Fires Beyond the Shield. So that's next Wednesday, the 4th of November. If you go to the sparetire.org, you'll find information for it. And we are providing a virtual bonfire for the event.
So it's a performance-based event, isn't it? Through Zoom.
It's storytelling. It's
Yeah.
predominantly storytelling. That's
Around
not
the
to say-
fireplace.
Yeah. So it's gonna be in Zoom, and every so often we will be. For those of you who use Zoom, and I'm sure most of you have used it, you may be familiar with spotlighting. So every so often, our Zoom window will be spotlit so that everyone sees the bonfire, and also we'll use our webcams to pick up performances so that we can literally bring people into our space by projecting them onto the wall, and they can be connected to the fire as well. So Tim, shall I
So
put
we
it
need
on your
to,
wall?
we might as well just kill off everything and then
Okay.
just try and figure out, just get, to get back to video, Nicola, Shift V,
Okay.
and then you need to knock out all
So
the
I've
other
knocked out
bits and bobs.
mine on that wall. So that's
On this
fine.
one, we don't need your program at all on that one, do we? We just use this one.
Okay, Shift V, take everything off. And you want the video? Did you say you want the video
I'll
left
press
on?
K to kill the background. Clear the
You
background.
want the video on though, yeah?
1, 2, 3. Yes, we need video on. Well, we need something for the. Let's think how we're going to. Okay, so first of all, let's just draw a blob. I'll just do it on 3. If you just
Yeah.
So if you just go to Notes and select a colour that's different from the background colour, and draw a big circle in the middle of the screen.
Oh, that's funny. I've chosen that colour as well. Oh, I've got erosion on it, so I've got to get that off. Yeah. Shall I get erosion off?
Yeah, erosion can be 0. And then press F. Oh, and something's happening already on F. Okay. Oh, it's showing the food source, Nicola. I left that showing. That doesn't matter. That
That's
might
nice,
have to
actually.
explain it.
Do you know, that may be nice because it looks like embers. If you can make the food source orange, can we change the colour of that?
Yes, so to change the colour of the flame, you've got an RGB on the flame.
Yeah, not the flame, but the food colour.
The food colour, the little dots on the end.
Yeah.
No, they're just.
So
they're
they
not
could
even-
be embers. They should stay
could.
there. Honestly,
Alright.
they should stay there. So our blob of food should be a different colour. Why don't we make it brown, okay?
So I'll be.
I'm going to make
One of the
it
reasons we're
brown.
doing this now is we're trying to. We're doing a tech dry run tomorrow with this, and then we're going to do things the week later. So I'm just showing Nicola what I've got so far, and she's saying that's good. Do this, add embers, etc.
So there's my
This pen is. I've just put it in my mouth, Nicola. It's been dipped in something.
nasty.
Right.
Yeah, I've made mine brown, okay? So now I've got and you know, really, we should do it like logs. I'm going to kill that.
Well, the
I'm
flames
gonna
don't have to
do-
be the same colour as the colour they're on, yeah?
No, I know, that's why I'm doing brown logs.
Okay.
I'm a bit more sophisticated. Look,
Are you
look.
doing? Oh, very right. Okay, I'll show you the new things, Nicola. Variegation.
Oh,
There's a slider for variegation, so it's monotone colour. Turn the slider up, and you get
lovely.
more varied colours.
Yeah.
You can change the length. This used to be spindle. Now it's improved it, and you can change the thickness.
And direction, yeah. So let's do
Direction points them upwards.
What about gradient? Do you have a gradient?
I didn't do that yet. I forgot.
So, but,
So you need 2 colours in them, yeah? Going to run out of
well, I
sliders.
tell you what, if you do alpha on it, if you do
Oh,
an
to alpha the end. Yeah, okay.
yeah, but well, that's a possibility.
It could gradate to the background colour. And then the other sliders
Nice.
are
Oh, that's all.
thresh. That's the thresh is the threshold. So anything, it doesn't really work in this case because you only got 2
One
colours on
block.
the screen. Density should
Yeah.
add more. That's self-explanatory. Alpha we've got, and then right.
That's
So
nice.
the interesting ones are invert. Down the bottom.
Oh, you haven't used direction yet, or you have? Yeah. You've
Yeah,
got
I have.
it.
I've made mine mainly pointing upwards, like
yeah,
flames.
Okay, I've got that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then,
So
look
invert.
at mine. I think mine's better than yours.
Invert. You ready?
Yeah.
Press yours as well.
Okay.
And 1,
2,
2,
3.
3.
Woo! Wow. What happened?
So now it's.
Everything
They're looking
outside
at
the
each
blob.
other, aren't they? Yeah, it's everything the opposite
Okay.
way round.
So
You can
let's
press it again,
say-
it'll go back to where it was.
We should get that on that wall. So that is camera 2.
I think they're looking at each other.
So that's on
Yeah.
that wall. Nice.
And then there is, I think the other one that works is fade down. So if you click fade down, there are lots of different ways of killing everything off, but one of them is fade down. And it takes about 10 or so seconds, and then it'll disappear. There's one left. There it goes. But then if you take fade, I haven't got a fade up because
Oh dear, no, that just jumped in.
It just pops in, so I'm not quite sure about that. Because there are other ways of fading stuff out,
Yeah.
and there are other ways of fading stuff down.
Well, of course, we can just reduce the thickness.
I don't like
of the flame.
variegation,
So I'm
I
going to
don't
take
like the
the
colour
invert
I've got
off.
either.
Oh, I've taken the invert off and it has an invert. Oh, yes, it has. Nice. I like it. Yeah. So the
So,
variegation, I think, is too varied. I think it should.
too
I
much
think-
variegation.
I think rather. Yeah. I think maybe.
But you can always just leave it low, I mean,
No, it's not that. I'm just thinking about. Oh, that's. You see, I think the food source is good. I think
you like the
that'd be
food
like
source.
embers. If you make that white or orange.
Oh, well, they could emit what embers going upwards. But for those points are actually the point where the they're a what are they? They're an inverse kinematic arm that's reaching for that food all the time, and that's why it
Yeah.
kind of swirls around.
Yeah.
So, and the food is just sort of rotating north of where it is, I suppose.
So yeah, so variegation's interesting, but what does it do to it? It just it makes it look more like an animal or something.
Variegation just
I know what
means
it's
more bigger
literally
variety of
doing.
colours.
I know what it's literally doing, but so what I suppose there's nothing wrong with the rainbow.
You might, because someone might do a really colourful performance, and then
Yeah.
because I'm thinking, I think you're going to be controlling this, or are we both going to be controlling this? Are we doing all three walls, or we're not quite sure, are we?
Well, it depends, and that's what we're going to try.
That's
and look at
nice on the
tomorrow.
middle walls,
We
lovely.
might have So that's looking at mine.
So say this, they've just done a performance,
Yeah,
and then
so
now
for
we press
example-
fade down, alright? So can you just press your fade down button,
Sure.
and then
Where's that?
so the performance is finishing,
Yeah.
fade down.
Sorry, didn't press it.
So it doesn't really go to black, it's a question.
Yeah, so my way of thinking is that I also have a feed coming from Zoom into
Yeah.
the projector to go on that wall. So
Yeah.
then they will be actually in.
So can we test that? What have
Not
you
now
got?
because I haven't got it linked up to another projector. Let's just get something on.
So if you when you turn the fade up back off, if you turn density down to 0,
Yeah.
then you won't get anything appearing because it's
Yeah.
0 density. So then,
So that's the way to do it. You do fade down, and then you must take density down. So I'll try that again. So I'll click fade down, take density down, and it's gone. Then I click fade down off. Okay, it's gone, and then I can start.
okay, so what I could do is when there are 0 flames, I could turn off the fade down and turn density to 0.
Yeah.
Then it automatically does
yeah,
that.
That's great. Yeah.
Now, what about the speed that it fades out as? Is that
It's
10
too
seconds?
fast.
Too fast? And so
So
we don't really need a fade
let
up,
me give
do
you
we?
an impersonation.
Do we need a fade up?
I don't think so. No.
Because you can do that with density. Again.
Right, so this is wall 2, okay. So that's getting. So if you can you do the same thing on there on wall 2? Get your flames up.
Yeah. What colour do you want them? Green, say.
Okay.
Greeny blue. Okay, so density is down to 0. What colour do you want me to actually put flames on?
Doesn't matter because I'm going to be.
So
in
if I
it,
pick up that red,
Yeah.
and now if I bring the density up, we'll get green flames appearing
Okay.
in the red.
So then if I illuminate myself. So imagine.
So I pick the colour of your face.
Yeah,
better.
you could do, for example. I mean, I don't. They may not want to be covered in
Please do it.
flames.
That's good. So if I pick up the white colour, look, you've got green worms growing out your face, Nicola. Although when you move, they disappear.
Okay,
so
try
what's
again. It's
happening
just so I can watch.
there?
Yeah, maybe why didn't you do it on the background? Because I think I've got a feeling
This
people
red
don't
colour.
want to be. I don't think
You don't want them
wanna
to be on fire. You
Well,
want
they
everything
might want
else.
to be, but I think initially
Okay, so it's on that blue colour.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's changing a lot because you're...
Yeah, it's because I'm doing it badly. It's rough and ready.
It's on that purple colour.
Yeah, okay.
So there's green flames.
So then this is a way of getting them in it. And then if you get... Can you turn the cameras that are on walls 1 and 3 to face that? Then I'll be appear in the other walls as well. And angle it.
Let me just kill off this one.
Just
It's
angle.
a nice chin shot, I think.
You can't angle
Hold
the
on,
cameras.
Right.
Poor old Tim.
Where is it? There.
He doesn't know up and down for angling a camera.
The thing is, it's very grey, this one. I don't know what you've done to that one.
Well, just.
Oh, you got it.
I've got it on
I've
dark.
got shift
And
V.
you know, you can't get the workers. I've got to do it myself. Okay, so I go to
You
the
needed
video,
some more hands
take
to
it
go like
on
an
dark.
octopus.
Okay, right.
More tentacles.
Right, look. Okay, that needs to be a bit...
Kill your logs off.
If I angle myself up into it, that makes it easier. Okay, off. Right, so what about the other... Yeah, so there you go. So then it's a way of getting someone on every wall.
Well, yeah. It's cool.
I'm going to turn this...
It's a cool effect.
Yeah,
I feel
okay.
like
It's because
this one should be nothing, probably.
Yeah.
3. I'm just going to
That's
kill the
nice.
video off on that one. Let's just focus
That's
on
right.
1. Let's get 1 right. So that's nice, isn't it? Where's your head?
I don't know. Oh, wait a sec. Let me take...
So this is obviously going to need a lot of work.
It's not.
Oh, it's going to need some work.
Yeah.
Some of the visuals are good. We're just not quite sure about... Because some of the performers are sending in videos, which we've got to... We may have to be playing ourselves.
Okay, so there we go. That's the screen. So if I illuminate myself again, so that's me.
That blue thing disappeared.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wow.
And then, so we need a button for fade down, don't we? We can't bring this thing up all the time. Let's get the density up on Nicholas. Threshold max. There you go. Whoa, very good.
I don't think people are going to want the flame on them somehow.
No, but there's very little else. Like a bit on the black. Ooh. Now why are they? Oh, I've got threshold so high.
Screw the air.
You look like a witch out of
I do.
Hold on, just finish it off with let's put a green tint on it. Oh, but all the things have disappeared. It's interesting.
They're back.
I mean, I don't think they don't want something really literal, do they?
Yeah, no, it's whatever takes a fancy sort of thing. Make it flame colour though, just some out of interest.
Make it what?
Flame colour.
Flame colour. That's pretty good flame colour.
It's just a bit yellow on the... Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so let's hold that and then I'll do a fade down. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
And then I take
10.
Okay.
I think it's got potential.
I think it has too. I think it has too.
So I've made a bunch of notes. So I can do all that for tomorrow's meeting.
Yeah, so we basically, we're getting this ready then for next Wednesday evening. So at this moment in time, we're not sure. I guess we won't be doing a live stream next Wednesday afternoon. but we might do one
No, because we're
on
doing
another
that
day.
session.
Yeah, but we might do one on another day. But we'll just put the information up on the front end of our website. So we're coming to the end of the programme, so just want to say once again thank you to the students from Millersville University for
Look at that, Nicola, look. The
participating
flames
in
are
our event.
coming, sorry to interrupt, are coming off the dots trails. So you get a swarming.
Okay, so I'm just going to put it on towards 3. Yeah, so thanks for participating in our Microworld at Home event. And thank you for joining us today. So we've been looking at making a swarm and creating new visuals. I mean, so these are all graphically made programs. I'm not saying the right thing. Unusually, there are no creatures made up of any sort of photographs or anything like that. This is all ellipses and video cameras.
Yeah, and one thing I was going to do in the next few weeks is kind of try and finish off the Sea People project, or not finish off, but convert the whole thing into something that can work in a browser. And to do that, I will be simplifying some of the graphic heavy elements of the piece, because you don't want loads of graphics loading on a browser and stuff like that. So it'll have a more geometric aspect.
Tim never has any problem with that, of course, because he doesn't design any of the sophisticated.
No, we'll keep some of them, but we just need to economise. Because say each animat, for example, has 20 to 40 graphics, and there are about 40 of them. So that's 800 graphics that are going to be loaded up. That's just not viable in a browser situation. So. But also, we'll be starting work on our ACE project, and one of the first things to do in the ACE project is to identify what new creatures we'll be using to experiment with these new interfaces, touch-free interfaces. So that will require a whole host of new creatures, Nicola, which Nicola will be primarily designing. So we've got some ideas already for those, but
well, I'm also thinking it could be quite interesting to have one where the person interacting becomes part of the virtual swarm. Yes. You know, that there is a sort of rule-based sort of engagement.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, 3 steps forward and what have you.
Swarms are pretty. Swarms have been done a lot in creative coding, in computer art. So we haven't particularly done swarms before, but we're doing it now and we're enjoying it. And now that we have a whole stable of different pieces that you can mix and match, put together, it makes sense that one of those is a swarm based, because that's an important simulation of life that has been a gap. And fractals is another one. We haven't really done anything particularly with those. Is we sort of avoid areas that a lot of other people have done really cool and amazing projects in, because
you don't need a million voids.
It's not a crowded field, but it's quite a small field, computer art. So you can see roughly what many other people do.
But I mean, they are also used as models in science, so it's not just creative coding. Obviously,
Rob leads over into science. Also, maybe our strengths as programmers are not in these very complicated mathematical things.
More in the creative.
Yeah.
Well,
so, shall I play some end music?
I think so.
Anything else left, Nicola?
No, I just think
so we just put up the website.
I'm very pleased. I think wall 1. I think that looks like a fire. You know, that's the log.
The question is, can we get to that
quickly
8 times, and can each one be different? I think it'd be nice if each flame was,
well, what
had a different
could be,
aspect.
I'll tell you what could be nice would be if you could load up the graphics. So I quickly drew that log setup.
Yeah.
But perhaps we just press a button.
That's a
and
good
load
idea.
it.
Preloaded graphics.
And that's how it works, people.
Nicola comes up with the ideas, and then I have to do them. Nicola, you can put your feet up till next week. All right, cool.
Right,
all right, we're going to play the end music. If I can find it. Oh, and if it goes through as well, that's another issue, because the sound, where the sound was going through got changed at one point, didn't it? Let's see where this is going to go. Maybe here.
Where is it?
Oh, well, I think you're going to have to sing it in the clear
Is
instead.
it on the top one?
Ah. Yes, it's there.
Bye
Bye-bye.